1924 and 1928. Reverend S.S. Jones was going around documenting this sort of self-determined, vibrant African-American communities. You see the African-American educators, doctors, lawyers, landowners, oil barons, and I think that's what's so remarkable about this footage. To think that individuals, how many years out of slavery, are now owning oil wells that are producing 2,000 barrels a day. Is that not the ultimate American dream? Is that not the ultimate American story? It flies in the face of what I think some people consider part of African American history and culture. And I think that that was one of the things that Oklahoma and what S.S. Jones is really kind of showing is that African American history and culture is not a monolith. And in a way, it became kind of like a marketing tool to encourage individuals to migrate, to move there, that this is a place where you can live, you can thrive, and peacefully reside. There were still palpable racial tensions. There are lynchings, there's Jim Crow, segregation, there's all of these things, and you still have an African-American community, or many communities, that really speak to the fortitude and resilience of Black people.
It's only with the Great Migration of 6 to 7 million African Americans north and west escaping the South, the predominant response of the United States government and state and local governments to the Great Migration was to contain Black people in their own neighborhoods. And HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, was particularly a part of this role. With the precursors to HUD, introduced and encouraged racially restrictive covenants, redlining of every major city where African Americans landed. The federal government was a sponsor of urban renewal, infamously called Negro removal by the great James Baldwin.
Urban renewal. A boy last week who was 16 in San Francisco told me on television, thank God we got him to talk, maybe somebody will start to listen. He said, I got no country, I've got no flag. Now he's only 16 years old. And I couldn't say you do. I don't have any evidence to prove that he does. They were tearing down his house because San Francisco is engaging, as most northern cities now are engaged, in something called urban renewal, which means moving the Negroes out. It means Negro removal. That is what it means. And the federal government is an accomplice to this fact. Now we're talking about human beings. There's not such a thing as a monolithic wall or, some abstraction called the Negro problem. These Negro boys and girls who at 16 and 17 don't believe the country means anything that it says, don't feel they have any place here on the basis of the performance of the entire country.
But now, Jim...
No, am I exaggerating?
No, I certainly could not say that you're exaggerating.
The term redlining resonates with actual red lines on the map that identified predominantly Black neighborhoods as hazardous starting in 1930s. The government-sponsored Homeowners Loan Corporation, the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, used these maps to deny lending, investments, and services to Black Americans. Yes, people, no matter what city it is, whether it's Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Austin, Texas, or Tallahassee, the history of redlining always lines up with the HBCU. And what is the reason for that? It's because, simply put, the best way to control a population is to control its knowledge. And this map of Atlanta is also very curious. Yes, those are red line districts, yes. But this isn't a map about redlining. This is a map about food deserts. If you think that's funny, when you look at food deserts, you look at areas of low nutrition? I got one for you. This is Jackson, Mississippi. Those red line districts are in the colors. I want you to look at the bottom number. That is for diabetes. The red line areas are mostly diabetic because they're also food deserts. And they're also around the pace of education. So when you see things like this, currently Wells Fargo being sued by black borrowers for refinance redlining. In 2020, when the world was going through the pandemic, I'll say pandemic, nothing else, people were refinancing their homes. Redlining has been outlawed as of 1968, officially abolished as of 2001. Secondly, abolished by 2008. One of the biggest people in the game for redlining was Wells Fargo. And they're still being sued because they potentially redlined African Americans during this pandemic. How do they redline them, you may ask? If you are a European American, made less than like $60,000, you're more likely to get refinanced than the Black American making 120 to 163. Almost 3 times the amount, or 2 times the amount. You're more likely to get refinanced. This is where this all comes from. So when you hear people like Tamika Reed say what she said in the press conference, there's a whole new light.
We'll be back here.
What's going
What
on
was your
right
message after today's game to them?
Honestly, my message after today's game was we have to continue to fight for our institution, for our conference. We have to continue to fight for our culture. We have to continue to knock on walls to get respect. We're knocking on walls. You've accomplished some things that hadn't been accomplished in this program and in this conference. But now it's time to come back and knock the walls down. We have to make a strong statement in preseason next year, another strong statement. And we're going to keep knocking until the respect is there. We're going to keep knocking until we get the same as other institutions. We're going to keep knocking because what happens is the transfer portal evens the playing field. And with the playing fields being even, all we ask is for everything to be fair across the board. Yes, we faced a very good team today, a very well-coached team. Yes, we came out with a game plan. Yes, we missed free throws. Yes, we made mistakes, but there were still some other things that played into that, and the world saw it. So for our institution, for our team, for our fight, we're going to continue to knock until we knock those doors down. That's what my message was.